Hello, my name is Dale Barnard. I am a healthcare technician here at Lawrence Associates, and I am here today to talk to you about a mobile respiratory unit. The agenda for this meeting is why do businesses need to comply with OSHA Regulation 29 CFR 1910.134. We will be discussing who administers the test. We will be discussing how businesses comply, why a mobile unit, the fines associated with not complying with that OSHA regulation, the growing market, then I will give you my project description, my budget, my conclusion, and then I will accept any questions that you may have. OSHA Regulation 29 CFR 1910.134 states that any business dealing with dust, fogs, mists, gases, smokes, sprays, or vapors needs a respiratory protection plan and equipment. They must have baseline tests done on the people that are going to use this respiratory protection. That will determine if they are even supposed to be wearing respiratory protection equipment. Then we will determine the proper type of respiratory protection that is needed. How does a business comply? A business must have a written respiratory plan. It must be worksite specific. What I mean by that is a fire department would use a different type of respiratory plan and protection than, say, somebody that was running a sandblasting business or a painting business. There is testing involved, which I will explain in a bit. The plan and the project must be overseen by a healthcare professional. That person must understand thoroughly OSHA 29 CFR 1910.134. They must also have proper documentation. Who administers the test? The person administering the test must be highly trained by OSHA in a 2 to 3 day class. Once they take that class, they are considered trained to give these tests. They must be able to motivate the client because the client has to suck in a lot of air, so they have to get that patient to suck in air and then blow it out as fast as they can. And then they must be able to accurately repeat that test a couple of times. The equipment used must be calibrated daily. The average cost of a spirometer test is $40 to $800. The place where I got the information for this said not to take that $40 figure too seriously because they figure that that is just the cost of the spirometer test, not the other stuff associated with the test, like the building that's being taken in or the person that is giving the test. The test, according to OSHA, must be taken during working hours. The employee must be on the clock and must be compensated for their time. And having a mobile unit would allow them to get them back to work quicker. They can serve many employees at the same time. They could show up and do probably 4 or 5 employees during a day. A mobile unit would be better to be worksite specific to understand the hazards within the building and to help the business choose the right protection plan and the right type of respirators involved. It also would be easier for record keeping because if somebody was on site, they wouldn't have to worry about getting the records from somewhere else. When it was done on site, before anybody, the tester even left the site, they would make sure that the business had all the records for the day so that when OSHA showed up, they could hand them the paperwork. The fines involved. OSHA's respiratory fines average $629.58. In 2013, OSHA issued 2,774 respiratory fines, totaling just over $1.7 million. In 2009, OSHA fined U.S. Minerals just under $400,000 for having hazardous dust, personal protective equipment violations, and training violations. This is a graph of the market need. In 2014, there was just over $1.1 billion worth of respiratory equipment sold worldwide, and they are expected to grow to $2.1 billion by 2024. So we are right in the middle of that right now, and you can see that this graph accelerates towards the end. My project, as I've said, is a mobile respiratory unit. It would be worksite specific, as I explained. It would be much easier for someone to go into a building and write up that respiratory plan than someone sitting in an office trying to understand what they needed for a plan. They would administer a physical questionnaire to the employee, and then they would administer the spirometer testing. Then they would give that proper documentation back to the business for them to hold on to for OSHA. They would also be able to measure the air quality in the building to make sure that the proper respirator type was being chosen for the job. And like I said earlier, the employees would not need to leave the building. We've all been to a doctor's office before. You aren't going to get an employee to run to a doctor's office and be back quickly. You're going to lose that employee for at least half a day, even more depending on how far they need to drive to get to that office building. They could serve more than one employee at a trip. You could probably serve 4 to 5 employees at a time if you were at their location. Then you could do on-site training rather than in an office trying to explain to someone how to use a respirator. You can go right into that person's workstation, set up the unit, show them how to use it, show them the proper care and maintenance of that respiratory protection equipment. This here is a picture of a spirometer. This is a picture of a person taking a spirometer test. All it is this little simple tube right here. It has like a windmill feature in it. So they have to suck in as much air as they possibly can and then exhaust that air as quickly and thoroughly as they possibly can. And then that will be done 2 or 3 times, and those give us our baselines for this test. So what kind of problem does my mobile unit solve? A business using a respiratory plan does not need to find the resources internally to build that plan. They do not need to find a healthcare professional to oversee the plan. They do not need to waste time sending employees somewhere else to have the test taken. They do not need to worry about documentation. They do not need to worry about keeping training up to date if those OSHA regulations change. The budget for my plan is website design would be $5,000 to $10,000. Average laptop is $800. The spirometer is just under $2,000. The healthcare technician does not need to be any healthcare specific person. All it is a person that has taken that 2 to 3 day class with OSHA. They are then qualified to administer the test. So I got $41,000 for their salary. The director oversight salary, I figure less than 8 hours a week, so that's $12,400. I have $2,000 for miscellaneous supplies, like safety guards that go on the spirometers, or maybe some paperwork and pencils and stuff like that. I also have a $13,000 line item for mileage, figuring that our healthcare technician could use their own vehicle until we got busy enough where it would make sense to buy a vehicle for that person. So that would give us an average expense in the first year of $81,201. I figure we can see at least 3 patients a week to get started at $600 per visit. That would be $93,600 in income, which would net Lawrence Associates $12,300 on their income their first year. In conclusion, I feel that the evidence I have provided shows that there is a market for a mobile unit. The right team can make this project a great success, and Lawrence Associates is in business to make money, and I feel that we can make money with this project. I would like to thank everyone for coming, and I will accept any questions now.